The role of time in human life. Time is one of the most valuable treasures in human life. Today, we can tell the time at a glance. We look at a wristwatch, a wall clock, or the screen of a phone. However, the idea of measuring time developed over thousands of years. It all began with observing nature. Thus, one of the world's earliest timekeeping devices, the gnomon, sundial, appeared during the 3rd and 2nd millennia BCE. A simple stick placed in the ground and the lines drawn around it allowed humanity to divide the day into different parts. Since ancient times, people had observed that the sun's movement across the sky changed the shadows cast on the ground. The earliest sundials were very simple and were called gnomon, Greek for indicator. Over time, this simple stick evolved into a sophisticated astronomical instrument. Sundials began to spread throughout the world. The Romans and Greeks installed them on the walls of buildings vertically or in the centers of public squares horizontally. By the Middle Ages, scholars realized that the gnomon should not simply stand upright, but should be aligned parallel to the Earth's axis of rotation and directed toward the North Pole. This made it possible to measure time much more accurately throughout all seasons of the year. Until the Renaissance, sundials remained the primary means of timekeeping. However, the greatest disadvantage of the sundial was that when the sun set, time itself seemed to stop, and on cloudy days, people were left blind. Humanity wanted to know the time at night and inside buildings as well. This desire led to the creation of water clocks and hourglasses. The greatest revolution after sundials was the invention of water clocks, clepsydras. Imagine the peaceful nights of ancient Egypt or Babylon. People would make a small hole in the bottom of a vessel and observe water dripping out at a steady rate. Marks inside the vessel indicated the passage of time. Time was now flowing not only in the sky but also in a container held in human hands. Such clocks were used in ancient palaces, temples, and centers of learning. Because they could also function at night, people valued them greatly. However, water did not always flow at the same rate. It flowed more slowly in winter and faster in summer. In colder regions, the water could freeze. In addition, the opening could gradually become clogged with mud or sediment, causing time to slow down. Therefore, time was still not being measured perfectly. Nevertheless, water clocks were a major step in human history. It was they that led people to the idea that time can be controlled. After water clocks, humanity wanted a more compact way of measuring time that was not dependent on weather conditions. This aspiration led to the age of hourglasses. One day, people emptied the water from water clocks and filled them with fine, dry sand instead. The sand did not remain at the top, but flowed steadily downward through a narrow opening. This was a much more stable method than water. Thus, the hourglass was born. Hourglasses became especially popular among sailors. It was difficult to use water clocks on ships because waves disturbed the water. Sand, however, was unaffected by this. The greatest advantage of the hourglass was its simplicity and reliability. It was not difficult to make, no water was needed, and there was no complex mechanism. However, it also had a disadvantage. An hourglass could measure only a specific period of time, such as 15 minutes or 1 hour. Once the sand ran out, it had to be turned over again. If a person forgot to do so, time would seemingly stop as well. By the Middle Ages, people had begun creating new inventions using iron and gears. Craftsmen connected large toothed wheels together and built mechanisms powered by heavy weights. Thus, the first mechanical clocks appeared. This was an entirely new era. At first, these clocks were very large and were installed in towers. In town centers, they struck a bell every hour. People no longer relied on the sun or sand to tell the time. Instead, they listened to the sound coming from the tower. Mechanical clocks were much more convenient than hourglasses. They operated continuously. There was no need to turn them over. They worked at night and during winter as well. As a result, hourglasses gradually fell into the background. However, they did not disappear completely. They continued to be used for a long time on ships, in kitchens, and in certain workshops because the simple hourglass remained very useful for specific tasks. Later, mechanical clocks continued to evolve. Scientists sought to make timekeeping even more accurate. As a result, pendulum clocks were developed. A pendulum swinging back and forth at a constant rate kept time with great accuracy. This was a major breakthrough. Tall wooden clocks appeared on the walls of homes. Inside them, a pendulum swung slowly back and forth. People could now tell the time accurately down to the minute. When the spring was invented, large weights were no longer necessary. Clocks became smaller. First came pocket watches. Wealthy people carried them on chains. Later, wristwatches were invented. Time now traveled together with people. In the 19th and 20th centuries, electric clocks appeared. Later, quartz clocks were developed. The quartz crystal inside them vibrated with remarkable precision. These clocks were inexpensive, convenient, and highly reliable. Mechanical clocks gradually became less of a daily necessity and more of an object of art and luxury. Today, atomic clocks exist. They are so accurate that they may only lose a few seconds over billions of years. Telephones, the internet, GPS, and satellites all rely on this precision. Yet behind today's most advanced technology still stand those ancient gnomons, grains of sand, and drops of water. For humanity began its understanding of time with those simple clocks.